Hi, this is Krista, and today I'm going to show you how to make a realistic newspaper for your scrapbooking layouts. I really found this to be a lot of fun, making my own newspaper, showing my pictures and doing some journaling. Kind of makes it reminiscent of old newspapers. I don't buy a newspaper. The last time I bought a newspaper was only for getting coupons, but I remember as a kid, Sunday mornings were big with the newspapers and reading them Sunday mornings and having coffee, and my father doing the crossword puzzle and my mother reading another section, and me, I might read the comics and whatnot. And then after reading the newspaper, my hands were full of ink that came off the newspaper that I'd have to wash my hands because you didn't want to rub your face and get newsprint on your face. But and nowadays, people are getting their news from online sources or the TV, and we're really not buying the newspapers as much as we used to. So this kind of takes me back a little bit, and I hope that while I had fun making this, I hope you enjoy and have fun too. I'm not going to show you how to, decorate it with a kit information. This kit that I was using was Morning Coffee by Danielle over at the Lily Pad at ETC by Danielle. But you can decorate your newspaper on your layout however you want. The main thing for our tutorial today is everything except for the texture is done specifically using filters in Photoshop, and I know that you're going to have a lot of fun with it. It's using filters and as well as different fonts. The two fonts that I'm using, one is Old English Text MT, and that's for the heading or the title of the newspaper. The rest is all Times New Roman. Some of it is in Italic, some is regular, and some is also in bold. But it's whatever fonts you want to use. Those are the fonts that I'm using for my newspaper. And basically that's pretty much it. It's going to be a lot of repetition, a lot of different steps. So I'm not going to fully go into all the steps. I'm going to show you how to change your photo and give it some filter texture so that it will look like a newsprint, like it is here. So it actually looked like it was in the newspaper. I'm going to set up a format for my page with all of these lines. I'm going to show you how to use the line tool to make a few of the lines, but you can look back and just see how I've spaced it. I'm going to basically show you how to do a little bit of shading, but it's more time consuming than it is difficult. The biggest thing is showing you how to use the filter to obtain this newsprint technique on your page. So with that, let's begin. I'm going to open up a new workspace. It's going to be 12 by 12, 300 dots per inch, and a white background. And then I'm going to use, I'm going to add a new layer, and using the Marquee rectangle tool here, I'm going to just draw a rectangle the size that would be for a newspaper. It's up to you. I'm going to go 6973. Just kind of so it's shaped like a horizontal rectangle, so it would look like a newspaper is folded in half. The fill color that I'm going to use, it doesn't matter which you're going to use because we're going to be putting a texture over it, but just so that I can see it, I'm just going to put in a gray color. Doesn't matter, like I said, which one, and I'm going to use the paint bucket tool to fill in my Marquee rectangle. So with that done, just Control D to turn off the Marquee. And now I'm going to grab my texture. The texture I've gotten, it's a free texture from Brush Easy, and I will have that texture link in the description area of the YouTube video for you so that you can grab it as well. So let me go ahead and grab that. I'm going to place embed, and here's my texture, and it's a little bit larger, so I'm going to grab the bounding boxes. Click OK. Now I'm going to do Control Alt and G to clip the texture to the rectangle. I'm just going to move this up just a little bit, grab it, and so that this way I get all this rich texture here at the bottom, and this little line here. Move it down just a little bit more, just so that it'll give the newspaper some dimension. I'm just going to quickly select both of these layers and then use the link button here at the bottom so that my texture stays linked to the square or the rectangle. With that done on the rectangle layer, I'm going to add a mask. So I'm just going to click on this rectangle with the circle at the bottom, and that will give me a layer mask. Using the polygonal lasso tool, I just want to make a little tear up at the top of this, because a newspaper is not really just straight edged. It just has a little bit of tear to the top. So to make it more realistic for our newspaper, I'm just going to do that, and I can do that with the polygonal lasso tool just by going from left to right, just kind of go up and down with my polygonal lasso tool. We'll make this a little bit looking like it was torn, and just go till you get to the end, and then just kind of go up over where the edge of the paper is, and then come back and meet it. So now we have this marching ants around a polygonal lasso that we made for the torn edge, and now we just want to make sure that this is black. Just click D on your keyboard for the default, and X to toggle to make sure that your foreground is black, and then just using the paint can tool, just fill that in with your mask, and Control D to turn off the marching ants, and now you have that tear all the way up at the top. Click on the mover tool, and now we're set with our base for our newspaper. As I stated before, we're going to go ahead and do some lines. Now I'm only going to do 1 or 2 lines. You can refer back to the newspaper here that I've made so that you can get a feel for where the lines should all be, or however you want to set yours up. But just so you know how to use the tools, I'm going to go ahead and do that now. I'm going to go ahead and use this line tool. First I want to click on the top layer, which is the texture layer, and I'm going to also click on the Create New Layer button. So that will add a new layer above, and that is where we're going to start with our line tool. The color that I'm going to make the foreground here, I'm going to click on that, and the color that I'm going to put here for the hex code, it's going to be a charcoal color. It's 3E, 3E, 3E. I'm going to add that to my swatches. I'm going to name it charcoal because I want this same color later to use for the fonts, for the texts that I'm going to be using for my newspaper. So I'm going to click OK. And now that has changed to the charcoal color. Say 3E, 3E, 3E. Now if you do not have your swatch palette here in your panel, it's very easy to do. Just go to Windows and Swatches, and it'll put it up here. And as you can see, This first box is my charcoal 3E, 3E, 3E. So click on the line tool, and that line tool is in with the custom shape tool, the rectangle tool, the rounded rectangle. We just want the line tool, and if you look up in your top toolbar, it'll show the line. We want it listed as shape. The fill is the charcoal color, the E3, 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 which is right here. And we're okay with everything else. So we're set on line tool. Now with the line tool, I have my little target cursor here, and I'm going to use that side left portion of the target as my spacer from the edge of the paper for my line to begin. If I hold down the shift key and use the left button on the mouse and slide my mouse to the right, and again using that target side as my edge and let go, you can see it has now added a straight line. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to duplicate all of this as it is shown in my example here. And it's basically just here I've indented just a little bit further for additional lines. And once I'm getting ready to put the spots for the photos, I'll be back. I'm going to go ahead and real quick show you how to do the little box. I'm going to go ahead and add a new layer. I'm going to use the rectangle tool, and I'm just going to draw a small rectangle here, or actually it's more like a square. And then I'm going to go to Edit, Stroke, and give it 1 pixel as a stroke, and Control D to turn off the marching ant. So that makes a box there. I'm going to duplicate that and put it on the other side, and then we'll go ahead and we'll make our boxes for the photos. And that'll have our information here. We'll put the weather in here. We'll just put some other verbiage in. But right now what I want to do is I want to make the rectangle boxes for our photo placement. So let's go ahead again and grab the Marquee rectangle tool, and we want to add a new layer, and beginning with our cursor right on the edge with the lines so it'll be even. I now have that marching ants rectangle, and now I'm going to flood fill it with the charcoal that I have there is fine. Once that's done, while I have it, I'm going to just go ahead and add a stroke style to this. Just click on the FX at the bottom, click on stroke, and the color here, we're going to still use the charcoal, so that's 3E, 3E, 3E. We want the size as 1. I'm going to keep it as inside, and OK, and Control D to turn off the marching ants. Now what's going to happen is once we've attached our picture, we'll go ahead and have a line around it. Same thing I'm going to do with the additional photo that I want to add. So we'll do that there. Go ahead and add a new layer, flood fill, and I'm just going to click on the effects here, hold down my Alt key and drag it up, and that will put the same stroke or the same effect, style effect on the additional picture. Control D to turn that off. So now I got my 2 spots for pictures. I've got it all set up here as far as the lines. Let me go ahead and look at this again. My squares kind of overlap, so I'm going to just resize them here just by clicking on that layer. Also, this, I'll do them both at the same time. Just hit select, and now let's just go ahead and edit, transform, and scale. I just need to make sure that it's a little bit smaller. Okay. Slide this back. Yeah, my line had disappeared, so I didn't see it, so that's why I had made it a little bit too big. So just line it up. And do the same with the other. Oh, the other one looks pretty good. Just a tweak. All right, so our template is pretty much set with the spaces of where we're going to be putting the text, the fonts, etc. So now what we're going to do is we're going to play with the picture, and I'll show you the technique to make your picture look like a newspaper article. So I'm going to do one, the other I will just repeat what I did. So the first thing I'm going to do here is select my horizontal rectangle, and I'm going to grab my photo. I'm going to place embed so that this way any filters that we add to the photo I can adjust later if I need to, because sometimes you want to tweak the effect that you made. So let me find my photo. I'm going to use this picture of the Towers Bridge. In addition to the Towers Bridge, the other picture will be this one, which is the flowers there at the Buckingham Palace Gardens. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the Tower Bridge. And now I just need to resize it. So I was just scrolling with my mouse just to get it so I can see it a little better. Make this larger so you can see it. And I'm going to right click with my mouse to clip it to the rectangle photo placeholder, and I'm just going to resize it just a little bit more so that it'll be exactly where we want our photo to be. So we get a lot of the Tower Bridge here. All right, that looks good. Now, as you can see, I'm going to bring that in just a tad more, and as you can see, it's got the black line around it for the stroke, which is what we were looking for when we stroked it before. So from here, now we're going to go ahead and do the newspaper texture technique on our photos. So the first thing I'm going to do is click on the photo, and with the blend mode I'm going to change this to luminosity, which will change your photo to black and white. It'll give it more of like a grayscale to it. So with the photo at black and white, the next step we're going to do is we're going to make sure that your foreground and your background color are black and white, and to do that just click D or on your keyboard, or just click on the black and white box here, and that will set the default. So with that foreground black and the background is white, go to filter gallery, and in the filter gallery we want to do sketch, and we want to do halftone pattern. Halftone pattern, we want the pattern type selected to be dot. You can, if it's circle, it will not have this correct effect, nor will the line. What we want here's what the line looks like, but what we want is the dot. Now you can adjust this dot to whatever size you want. I happen to like about 2 is a good size. 1 is a little bit too light. So I'm going to go for 2. And the contrast, I'm going to, 4 was good. I'm going to do, yeah, I'm going to leave it at 4 and say OK. Now what that does is it puts the dots on your photo. The next step we need to do is we need to add the noise filter. We're going to add some noise to this. So go to Filter, Noise, and Add Noise. We want to keep this because you're giving it a little bit of a green to it, which is how newspapers are. It's not crisp and clear. It's got a little bit of that green to it. And go anywhere from 9 to about 15. The more higher you go, the more greeny it will be. I happen to like it about the 9.64, I think is what I had it. That gives a good green to it. You want Gaussian selected as far as distribution, and you want monochromatic clicked. And then press OK. So looking good so far. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to add a layer, create new layer, right click and clip it. And now we want to do Filter, Render, Clouds. And that puts the black and white and mixes it together. Now this is not as soft as I would like it. We're going to transform this and enlarge the clouds. So do Edit, Transform, and Scale. And with this link indented to make sure that it's blackened so that you know it's linked, that will link the width and the height together. So when you change the width to 300, it automatically will change the height. And what that does is it enlarges it so it smooths it out a bit. And that's what we're looking to do. So that's okay. So just click your check mark to set it. And then the next filter, we're going to add another filter. Go to Filter. And we want Pixelate, and we want Meso Tint. Now when the Meso Tint comes up, what you want is you want to choose coarse dots. If it comes up as fine dots or medium dots, greeny, you want to choose coarse dots. So select that and click OK. So now it looks like, I guess if you were going to do stained glass, this would be a really cool effect for the stained glass. But what we want to do with this is change the blend mode to overlay. And now we want to reduce the opacity to about 15 or 20. And this kind of gives it that newsprint sort of technique. So 20 is good. If you scroll out, you can see that it gives it a pretty good feel to it. You can also add an exposure to it by adding an adjustment layer. That's that icon, which is the circle, and go to exposure and adjust the, first make sure it's clipped to your stack for your picture, and then just adjust the exposure if you want to make it a little bit darker. Offset. I would make the offset a little bit because it gives it a gray tone and softens it a bit, which is how newspapers look. And the gamma correction, just slide it a little bit to the left. So I think that's looking really good. So now I'm going to go ahead and do the same for the other picture, and I'll be right back. I've gone ahead and I've adjusted the picture of the Buckingham Palace Gardens. And now, because we have quite a few things here in our layer palette, what I'm just going to do is I'm just going to grab all the picture stuff here just by clicking on the one and then clicking Shift and going all the way up to the top and grabbing them all and just adding a group here. I'm going to just click on this folder at the bottom and create a group and just relabel this as photos, just so I can reduce some of the information here. And these are the boxes, so, and these are the lines. So I'm just going to put all of these shape things in one folder as well, highlight them all, and we're going to call this lines and boxes, just so we know where they are. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you, I'm going to add a new layer here, and with the type tool, Old English Text, I'm going to make the text probably about 72 and just put the title in here. I can adjust it, so I'm going to call it the Daily News. It's quite large, so let's go ahead and we'll put this into place. First of all, let's make sure, okay, 3E, 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 so that's on charcoal, that's what we want. We're going to have to adjust this, so let's make it 60. 60 looks better as far as the size goes. And let's see, maybe minus 50, minus 75, we'll shrink it a little bit more. Maybe make this minus 80. All right, let's see. And we can probably put that right there. Now what I want to do is I want to make sure that it's centered. So I have highlighted here in the layer panel, I got the Daily News, which is my title for my newspaper, and I'm going to click on the, with the Control key held, I'm going to click on the layer of the rectangle. And with those two selected, I'm going to go to Layer, Align, and we want horizontal centers. And so now that placed the title directly in the center of the edges of the newspaper. So now we're good to go. I'm going to just show you real quick an easy way to do the journaling. I'm not going to go through and do the whole thing, but I'm just going to show you how to put this title in and how to do some of the text boxes. I'm not going to put the journaling in, but the text boxes. So now I want to change over to Times New Roman. Let's make this about 8, 0, and let's do auto. And with the text tool, here down at the bottom, I'm going to have 2 columns of text. So I'm going to make 2 text boxes. So one box, that's a good size, and it put in default text, which is good for me. And then I'm just going to click OK, and I'm just sliding down just a little bit. And now what I want to do is in the here in the layer panel, I'm going to duplicate this, and then using the arrow tool, just slide it over so that I'll end up with 2 columns. Okay, so I have 2 columns. Now I want to make these a little bit smaller because I want them to fit directly in line with the photo. So just select them both, edit, transform, scale, and then just use the bounding box and slide it in just a little bit. So click OK. And now, because these are in line with the texture, just right click and you can go up to layer and create clipping mask, or do the shortcut Alt Control G, and that will clip it so that when you're typing your journaling here underneath the photo, it'll end up looking like that'll end up being on the fold of the newspaper. Now you would do that same process here. We're going to put a title in here. You can put a title right above and then put your journaling. I did 2 text boxes. I'll do one here and then one large one here so that I can fit all of my journaling. So for example, let's just do the top. I'm just going to grab this. I don't want to reproduce the wheel here. I'm just going to grab and drag it in. And so I'm going to place that right here. So that's one title, and that's just using Times New Roman regular, and I just wrote out the words. So then what I'm going to do is, again, it's going to do that text box, which you can use with your font tool. So just click a box. Let go. I think we had 8, and it was auto. Let's see if that's the same font. It doesn't have to be the same size, but that was 7.7. Okay. So this is 8. We can make it the same, 7.7. And okay, so there's that, and then I did the same right directly underneath to continue. And so that's that story. And then of course here I've just typed in, I'm going to do with the Times New Roman, I'm going to do with bold, and I'm going to make it really large. Let's see, 48 is too large. Maybe go about 30. And do tower, all in caps, tower, bridge. I want it on this end, and this is too wide, so I'm just going to make that like a -50, maybe a little bit shorter, so -75 is going to be too much, maybe 70. Okay, that's good. Now I can, if I want to, do edit, transform, and scale. If you hold your shift button down and just stretch it a little bit, just a little bit, not too much. Okay, and then just use your arrow key and just bring that down. And so that's how you would do that. And then of course you'd put in your fonts here. Some on the one I had made here, I had used some Italic. I mixed up the fonts. Now, just for your own information, if you're going to be putting in the weather, if you wanted the degree symbol, if you on your when you're doing your type, you would do like 66 and then the degree symbol. If you hold down your Alt key and you type in 0176, that's going to give you your degree sign. So I'll show you real quick here. I'm just going to do that right here. I'm not going to put the whole thing, but and make it I don't know, about 16 size, and just do 66, and then holding down the Alt key and on your number pad typing in 0176 will give you the degree. Then I just did a slash and I did 58 and the Alt 0176 to give me the degree. And of course I made it smaller, but I just wanted you to see it. The same thing with the change. If you didn't want like your paper costing $1 or whatever, and you wanted to make it like I did with 75, and then the cents, that's alt code 0162. And of course, if you're in the UK and you're pound, you can look up the symbol for pound, or any symbols. You can look up on the internet, just look up alt keys, and that will allow you to type in any symbols. Not all fonts will allow those symbols, but for example, Times New Roman does. So just be aware that not all fonts have the alt keys. But that at least will show you a little bit of the differences that I had there. Here where I did the little sun and cloud, that I got off of the internet. It was the weather. I went and I looked at one of the weather sites to get the temperature of the weather, and that's where I got that symbol from. I just made this smaller, and then I put weather today above it, and I put, you know, the date here, and basically that's it. So once you've gotten that done, what you want to do is you want your newspaper, we want to take a snapshot of your front page, and we want to flip it so that this way it will look like you have newsprint coming from the back of the paper. So how you would do that in making a snapshot, you would go up to the top of your layer palette or layer panel, and before we do that, we want to make sure that the background layer is turned off. Go up to the top of your layer panel, and with the keystrokes of holding down the Control, Alt, Shift, and E all at the same time, ends up giving you a snapshot, as you can see up here in the top. So with that, what we want to do with that layer is we want to flip it. So go to Edit, Transform, and then Flip Horizontal. So now we've made that backwards. Go ahead and grab that layer, slide it down till you get over the texture layer. So with that over the texture layer, we're going to go ahead and set that to multiply. That's the background layer, and make the opacity of about 25 is good, 22 is good, somewhere around there. And then just go ahead and move this up. What you want is not so it's exactly in the same spot. You want to get rid of that header. Just go ahead and slide it up a little bit. Yeah, something like that. Maybe make the opacity just a slightly lower amount. So once that's done, we're going to go ahead and add a shadow. Go to your rectangle, because that's the only place you need to add the shadow. And I'm going to go ahead and click on one of my shadows that I have. It's a little bit too much. I'm just going to reduce this a little bit. Just adjust it just a tad, so it's not so far. Okay. Now you can tweak this a little bit if you wish by creating separate layers and adjusting however you want to do that. I'm just going to leave it as it is, and since my background is already turned off, I'm going to go up to the top of the layer panel, and once again I'm going to do a snapshot, because what I want to do is I want to make another newspaper and have that be like I have layered newspapers. So I'm going to go up to the top here and do another snapshot with the Control Alt Shift and E. And now that I have my snapshot of my newspaper, I'm just going to grab that, bring it on down, and put that directly over the background layer. Turn the background layer back on, and now click on that snapshot layer that we just made. And with that, we're going to do Edit, Transform, and Rotate. And we're going to rotate that just a little bit and place it so it'll look like the newspapers are stacked and laying over each other. And I have one more step before we're done. I want to add a small transparent, black to transparent gradient on the bottom so it'll look like it's a thick newspaper. So I'm going to go right above here, right above the texture, and I'm going to actually right above the reversal, and I'm going to add a new layer. And now I'm going to click on the gradient tool, and we already have our default of the background set to black, the foreground set to black and the background set to white. And if you look up here in the gradient tool, it does show black to transparent, and that's what we want. So we're going to just use our mouse and go below the newspaper and just go straight up till you get to about where the bottom of the photograph is, and let go. And what that does is it puts the shading on the newspaper at the bottom, and now it looks like you have a folded newspaper. So I do hope that you enjoyed this fun exercise and learned how to do a newspaper. It really is a fun tool, and you can make all kinds of things with this. But I do hope you enjoyed, and I can't wait to read your news. Have a great day.